He said it in front of everyone, a room full of powerful men who had never once been told no. He said it like a verdict, like a seal, like the last word in a language nobody dared argue with. And the man who had been holding her wrist let go so fast, you would think her skin had turned to fire. You are watching a story that will remind you that some people walk into your life not to stay, but to save you. Before we go any further, tap that subscribe button right now because this is the kind of story that will follow you long after the last word. She's mine now. The voice thundered from the far end of the table, unhurried, certain, with the particular weight of someone who had never once needed to repeat himself. Every side conversation in the room collapsed. The man standing nearest to the woman let go of her wrist so fast it was almost funny, almost like the contact had suddenly become dangerous to him. Her name was Jade Ellis. She was 26, brown-skinned, natural hair pulled back into a puff that was holding on bravely after a long evening, wearing a gold dress that belonged at a celebration and not at whatever this had become. The man who had just spoken his way across the entire room was named Seo Rin. He was from Ansan, a city that most people outside Korea had never thought much about, which suited him perfectly. He had spent the last decade making sure that what happened in rooms like this one passed through him first. He was not tall in the way that announces itself. He was tall in the way you feel when the temperature changes. He walked around the table. Not fast. The kind of walk that had already decided the destination before the feet moved. The man he was walking toward, the one whose hand was still hovering in the air where Jade's wrist had been, was named Garrett Shaw. Garrett had a face that had been trained over many years to look reasonable. He wore that face now like a tool. He was Jade's boyfriend. Or he had been. Or the line between what they were and what she was surviving had been blurring for so long that she had stopped being able to see it clearly. "You don't have a say in this," Garrett said. Seo Rin stopped 3 feet from him. His eyes did not raise to meet Garrett's directly. They landed on him the way you set something down. With complete control. "I just had one," he said. "You don't even know her. I know that she has looked at the exit 4 times since you pulled her away from her conversation." Seo Rin's voice was completely level. "I know that the moment your hand touched her, the expression on her face was not surprise. It was recognition. A pause that lasted exactly as long as it needed to. That tells me everything I need to know." Garrett's jaw worked. Around them, 20-odd men who moved money across borders, who made decisions that rearranged whole industries, did not move a single muscle. Jade looked at Seo Rin. She did not know him. She had clocked him earlier in the evening the way you notice a change in the weather, instinctively, without decision, and thought that he looked like someone who had made peace with being misunderstood a long time ago. She had not thought about him again until this moment. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. Not to him. To the room. To the shape of what had been building all evening. "Come with me," Seo Rin said. Directly to her. Not an order, an offering. "I don't know you," Jade said. "No," he said. "But you know him. And tonight, that's the problem." She looked at Garrett. He was already rearranging his expression, the careful pivot into hurt, into reasonable, into the face that always appeared right before he reminded her of everything he had done for her, right before she found herself apologizing for things she had not done. She had seen that face so many times that she could map every muscle movement in advance. She picked up her bag. She walked towards Seo Rin. The room watched in the particular silence of people witnessing something they would be careful not to mention later. Outside, the night air was cold and immediate, and Jade almost laughed. Not from anything good, but from the sudden sensation of being able to fill her lungs all the way, which she had not realized she had not been doing all evening. Seo Rin walked beside her. Not ahead. Not a half step behind the way Garrett always positioned himself, slightly in front, just enough to make you feel like you were being led somewhere rather than choosing to go. Beside. "You can stop now," Seo Rin said, when they reached the edge of the building where a dark car waited. "He won't follow. Not tonight." Jade stopped. She turned and looked at him properly. Up close, he was younger than the way he carried himself suggested, early 30s, maybe. There was a scar along the left side of his jaw, old and faint. His face was the kind that did not offer much for free. "Who are you?" she asked. "Seo Rin." "That's your name." That's not what I asked. Something shifted in his expression. Barely, but it was there. Someone who pays attention, he said. To me? Or to Garrett?
Both, he said.
For different reasons. She crossed her arms. The gold dress was not warm enough for the outside air, but she did not say so. What did he do to you? Nothing yet, Seo Rin said. But I've watched him for 3 months. I know the pattern. His eyes moved back to her face. You are not the first person he pulled away from a conversation tonight. You are the first one who didn't immediately adjust yourself to make him more comfortable afterward. Jade held that thought for a moment. The saddest compliment she had ever received, that the thing distinguishing her from everyone else was simply that she had refused to shrink. I need to go home, she said. Take the car. My driver is trustworthy. I'm not getting in a stranger's. Garrett Cole does not accept the end of things from people he considers his. Seo Rin said it plainly, without drama. Tonight, in front of everyone in that room, he lost something he thought belonged to him. That means before morning, he will be looking. He looked at her steadily. Take the car. Tomorrow you decide what comes next. Tonight, be safe. Jade looked at the car, then at him. Why do you care? She asked. The pause that followed was longer than a simple answer needed. I'm still working that out, he said. She got in the car. Jade sat in the back and watched the city move past the window, all those ordinary streets, all that familiar light, and she felt like a completely different version of herself was doing the watching. Like something had shifted in the architecture of the evening without her permission. Her phone had 11 messages from Garrett. She did not open a single one. She stared out the window. And somewhere in the back of her mind, 3 words were still sitting in the air, clear as anything. She's mine now. Not possessive. Not threatening. Said like a wall going up. Said like a roof appearing above someone who had been standing in the rain long enough that they had forgotten what dry felt like. She told herself it meant nothing. She did not entirely believe herself. The next morning came gray and unhurried, and Jade sat at her kitchen table with tea going cold and her thoughts going nowhere useful. She worked as a brand strategist at a mid-sized creative firm, a job that required her to understand what people wanted before they knew how to say it, which was a skill she had developed early and used everywhere except, apparently, in her own life. She had been with Garrett Shaw for 11 months. In the first 3, he had been attentive in the particular way of a man who understands that attention is currency, deliberate, well-placed, effective. By the 6th month, the attention had become something else. Surveillance dressed as care. Correction dressed as concern. By month 9, Jade had started doing calculations she did not want to name. How much energy it cost to hold a conversation with him, how many times a day she checked her own tone before speaking, how often she preemptively apologized for things she had not yet done. She had been trying to find the right moment to leave. She knocked on the door of her own heart. You already left. Last night in that room. You just haven't caught up to yourself yet. A knock at her actual door made her look up. She opened it to find a woman she had never seen, compact, Korean, sharp-eyed, with a ponytail that meant business and a paper bag in one hand. My name is Mira, the woman said. I work with Seo Rin. He sent food, dumplings, rice, corn soup. He also asked me to tell you that Garrett went back to the venue after you left and made a scene. Security collected footage. He said you may need it. She held out the bag. He also said to tell you that if you want nothing more to do with any of this, that is completely your right, and he will not contact you again. Jade looked at the bag. At Mira. He sent food. He woke up at 4:30. He had time. He doesn't know me. Mira tilted her head slightly. He knows a problem when it's growing. He's very good at that. She offered the bag again. He also left a number. Use it or don't. Your choice. And then Mira turned and walked down the hallway with the brisk certainty of someone who had delivered exactly what she came to deliver and had other things to do. Jade stood in her doorway holding a bag of food. She ate every bit of it. 4 days passed. On the 5th, she walked into her office building to find Garrett already there, standing in the lobby, composed, wearing a light jacket, holding the expression of a man who had rehearsed this moment.
Jade. Warm.
Careful.
Public.
Not here, she said. You haven't answered any of my Garrett. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. I am going to work. We are not having this conversation today. His expression shifted. Only slightly, only for a moment. Only the way it always did right before something got worse. You made me look like I couldn't handle my own. I made you nothing, she said. What happened in that room is what it was. She walked to the elevator. Don't be here when I come out at lunch. The elevator doors closed behind her. Her hands, in her coat pockets, were unsteady. But her face had been completely level. On the ride up, she pulled out the number Mira had left and typed one sentence. He found me at work this morning. The reply came in under a minute. Are you safe? She looked at those words. 3 words. No dramatics. No grand offer to destroy Garrett on her behalf. Just, are you safe? Present. Focused. The exact question. Yes, she typed.
For now. Okay.
I'd like to meet when you're ready. No urgency. She put the phone in her bag and went to her desk. She told herself this was practical. She told herself this was about information, about the footage, about protecting herself if Garrett escalated, which, based on everything she knew about him, he would. She told herself this for 11 days. And then she met Seo Rin for lunch at a quiet restaurant on the east side, and he poured water for them both before sitting down, and she thought, this man is the most deliberately careful person I have ever been in a room with. In the daylight, Seo Rin was different. Not softer, he was not a soft person, and she was not interested in pretending otherwise. But more present. Less like a declaration and more like a person who had chosen deliberately to be in this specific chair at this specific time. He asked about her work, about how long she had been in the city, about whether she preferred the cold months or the warm ones, about what had made her choose brand strategy as a career. She answered carefully at first, searching for the angle. The reason, the thing he wanted in return. There was no angle. He was just listening, with the particular quality of someone for whom listening was not passive but active. Receiving, not waiting. You're trying to figure me out, she said. Yes, he said. No apology in it. Most men in your position who take an interest in a woman's situation have a reason that benefits them. I have a reason, he said. I told you, Garrett Shaw is connected to a business matter that affects people I am responsible for. That's the professional part. He held her gaze. You are the part that isn't professional. Jade set down her fork. You're very direct. I've found that being anything else wastes time that could be spent on something real. And what is the non-professional part exactly? He considered the question with the same care he seemed to bring to everything. I saw a person in a room full of powerful, loud people, a person who was being pulled around, managed, handled. And that person picked up their bag and walked toward a stranger, in a direction they couldn't have been certain about, and did it without performing anything.
He paused.
That kind of clarity doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from someone who has been paying a very high price for a very long time and has finally decided they're done paying it. Jade felt the words move through her in a way she was not prepared for. I was scared, she said quietly. I know, he said. That's what made it matter. This is the part of the story where the ground is still being prepared, where 2 people are circling the edges of something neither of them has named yet. Everything you are feeling right now is only the beginning. Subscribe right now because the next part of this story takes a turn that will completely change what you think you know. They walked after lunch. Not planned, it simply happened, the meal ending and neither of them moving toward the door until eventually the movement toward the door became a movement along the street. He told her about Anson, the real version. Not a polished summary, but the texture of it. A mother who worked without stopping. A childhood where reading people was not an art but a necessity. The specific way you learn to be very still, when stillness is the only defense available to you. He said these things without performing vulnerability. He said them the way you state facts that simply are, that have always been, that you have long since stopped needing anyone else to validate. She told him about home, about her mother, about the specific grief that lives in a family after something breaks, the way some families pull together and some families quietly become strangers. About who she had been before Garrett. About the version of herself she was currently searching for in the spaces between what the last 11 months had compressed. At a crosswalk, waiting for the light, she said, "I don't know what this is."
Neither do I, he said.
"But I'm not rushing it. You seem like someone who is always 10 steps ahead." "In work," he said. "This is different." "Different how?" He looked at the light. "If I'm 10 steps ahead with you, I'll miss what's actually happening right now. And I don't want to miss it." The light changed. They crossed. And somewhere in the middle of the street, in the ordinary gray afternoon, Jade felt something she had no good word for settle into the center of her like a stone dropping into water. Not heavy. Just real. Jade did not tell anyone. Not her best friend Serena Cole, no relation to Garrett, which they had established in the first week of their friendship and laughed about ever since. Not her older sister Patrice, who called every Sunday from home and had an almost supernatural ability to detect when Jade was carrying something she hadn't named yet. Not a single person. She kept it the way you keep something fragile, carefully in the dark until you know what it is. Garrett, meanwhile, went quiet. That was the part nobody warned you about. In 11 months, Jade had learned that Garrett's loudness was not his most dangerous mode. His silence was. The silence meant he was planning. The silence meant he had decided that what had happened required a response more considered than simply showing up places. The silence meant he was going to do something she wasn't expecting. It came on a Wednesday. Her manager, a methodical man named Howard Briggs who managed his team the way an accountant manages a spreadsheet, called her into his office at 4 p.m. and told her, with considerable discomfort, that a formal complaint had been filed regarding her professional conduct at the charity event. Jade sat very still. "A complaint," she said.
"Yes."
"Regarding an altercation at a company-sponsored event." "There was no altercation," she said. "There was a situation in which my ex-partner grabbed my wrist in public and another person intervened. That's the complete sequence of events." Howard looked thoroughly uncomfortable. "The complaint characterizes it as." "Who filed it?" she asked. The pause was its own answer. "Garrett Shaw," she said. Howard said nothing. "Garrett Shaw grabbed my wrist," Jade said carefully, "and the complaint is about my behavior." "Jade, I believe you." "I know you do," she said. And she did, not because it changed anything immediately, but because she had learned to separate the people in a situation from the mechanics of the situation. Howard was not her enemy. The machinery he was caught in was. She went back to her desk. She picked up her phone. "He filed a professional misconduct complaint at my job about the night at the venue." Seo Rin's reply came fast. "Can I send you something?"
"What?"
"The footage from that night. Complete sequence. Your firm's legal team would find it useful. I can have it there by morning." She read the message twice. "Yes," she typed.
"Okay."
One word. No fanfare. By Thursday morning, the complete security footage, along with a clean professional email from a legal firm, noting that the material was being shared as part of an unrelated preservation of evidence, arrived at her company's legal department. By Friday afternoon, Howard Briggs called her into his office and apologized. The complaint had been withdrawn. She sat at her desk afterward and was quiet for a while. Then she called Seo Rin. "Thank you," she said when he answered. "The footage existed," he said. "The truth was always going to come out. I just made sure it arrived before it could be buried." "That distinction matters to you," she said. "Yes." "Why?" A brief pause. "Because if I do everything for someone, I create dependency. If I put the right tool in the right hands, the person becomes stronger. That's what I want. A beat. Not people who need me. People who are capable." She thought about that for a long time after the call. The following Saturday, a pale, cold morning with the sky the color of old paper, Seo Rin met her at the river path near the east side, and they walked for 2 hours without either of them suggesting they stop. He had not been to this part of the city before. He told her that honestly, with no embarrassment, and she showed him the small things she knew about it, the bakery that was older than the street it sat on, the particular way the river looked from the lower bridge, the bench where she had sat on her first day in the city, and decided she was going to be fine. "Were you?" he asked. "Fine. Eventually," she said. "That day, not really. But I decided it before I felt it, and the feeling caught up." "That's a specific kind of bravery," he said. "It's the only kind I know," she said. The kind where you say the thing you want to be true and then live toward it.
He was quiet for a while.
Then, I've never done that. What do you do instead? Calculate, he said.
Plan.
Make sure the ground is solid before I step on it. And if the ground is never completely solid? He looked at the water. Then I've been standing still a lot. She looked at him sideways. That sounds exhausting, she said. It is, he said quietly. I'm beginning to understand how exhausting. At the lower bridge, they stopped. The water below them moved with the particular determination of water that has somewhere to be. Jade leaned on the railing and looked at it, and she was thinking. She was doing what she always did when she was near water, which was to let her thoughts arrange themselves without interference. Tell me something true, she said. Something you don't usually say. He was quiet long enough that she turned to look at him. I built everything I have, he said slowly, by being the person in the room who everyone else was cautious around. That was useful.
It kept things organized.
It kept people safe, in a specific kind of way. He looked at the water. But it also meant that nobody ever just talked to me. Without an agenda. Without being careful.
He paused.
You talk to me like I'm a person. Jade looked at him. You are a person, she said. I know, he said. I'd just forgotten what it felt like for someone else to know that. The river moved below them. Above them, the sky was starting to break open into something warmer. What came next arrived from a direction neither of them had been watching. Jade came home on a Tuesday evening to find her apartment door slightly open. Not broken. Not forced. Open the way a door opens when someone with a key has gone through it. She had 2 keys to her apartment, herself and Garrett, who she had never gotten around to asking for his back because she had been building toward the leaving without ever completing it. She stood in the hallway. Her neighbor across the hall, an older man named Bernard Holt who noticed everything and said very little, appeared in his doorway. Young man let himself in about an hour ago, Bernard said. Came out 10 minutes later. Didn't look happy. Jade looked at her door. She called Seo Rin. He went into my apartment, she said, when he answered.
A pause.
Very short. Are you inside?
No.
Hallway. Don't go in yet. I'm sending Mira. Seo Rin.
Jade.
Her name and his voice had a different quality than she had heard before. Not louder, but more direct. More present. Let Mira check the space first. Then you go in. Please. She waited in the hallway. Mira arrived in 14 minutes, which meant she had not come from across the city, and went through Jade's apartment with the quiet efficiency of someone trained to look for specific things. She came out 4 minutes later. There's a recording device, Mira said. Small one. Behind the clock on the kitchen shelf. Jade looked at her. He planted. It's been removed. Mira held up a small sealed bag. I'm taking it as evidence. She looked at Jade directly. This changes the situation. What situation? Jade asked. What exactly is Garrett trying to do? Mira was quiet for a moment, and in that moment, Jade understood that Mira knew more than she had been asked to share. I need Seo Rin to explain this part, Mira said.
Tonight.
It should come from him. She drove to his building. She had never been there before, had only ever met him in neutral spaces, in the city's ordinary geography. His building was tall and unremarkable from the outside, which she suspected was entirely deliberate. Mira had sent the address without being asked, which told Jade that Seo Rin had asked her to. He opened the door himself. She walked in and stood in a space that was not what she had expected. Large, yes, but lived in. There were books in stacks on a table near the window, and a whiteboard on one wall covered in notes in Korean, and 2 empty cups on the counter that suggested the evening had already been long before she arrived. Sit down, he said. Tell me first, she said. He nodded once. He pulled out a chair at the table and sat down across from where she was standing, and he told her. Garrett Shaw was not simply an unpleasant man with controlling tendencies. He was a collector of information, of leverage, of secrets belonging to people in positions of influence. It was how he operated. It was, in essence, what he was. He had been attempting to penetrate Seo Rin's network for 2 years, not with violence, not with money, but with exposure. With the threat of making private things public to authorities who owed him favors. Seo Rin had blocked him at every point. And so Garrett had changed strategy. He targeted you, Seo Rin said. I don't know whether it was before you met him or whether he discovered the connection later. But what I know is that the recording device in your apartment was aimed at gathering anything that connected you to me, to use as leverage. Jade sat down. She had not meant to sit. Her knees made the decision. He built a relationship with me, she said, to get to you. That's what the evidence suggests, Seo Rin said. His voice was flat and even. I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the complete picture. Jade looked at the table. She was doing the calculation. The one where you go back through 11 months and hold every moment up to new light and watch the color change. She was doing it quickly because she was very good at pattern recognition, and patterns were appearing everywhere now that she knew what to look for. The way Garrett had been so precisely interested in her professional network when they first met. The questions that had seemed like engagement and now seemed like inventory. The gradual, careful construction of isolation, not dramatic, not sudden, but consistent, like water finding the cracks. He used me, she said. Her voice was even. Yes, Seo Rin said. And you. She looked up. He used me to get to you. That was the plan. A pause. I need to ask you something. Directly. Ask it. Did you know anything? Any part of it? She held his gaze. No. I didn't know you existed until the night at the venue. He looked at her, that long, clear, complete look that missed nothing. I know, he said quietly. I already knew. I had to ask anyway. I understand, she said. And she did. She understood that a man in his position, who had been betrayed by someone inside his own circle in order to facilitate this, because someone had been feeding Garrett the information to make the approach possible, could not afford to take knowing on faith. She understood that the ask was not accusation. It was procedure. Who on your side? She asked. Already handled, he said. She nodded. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what is Garrett going to do next? He is a file, Seo Rin said. Compiled over 2 years. He was going to use the recording from your apartment to add to it, to create something that connected you and I before the venue night, which would have given his case a different shape. He looked at her steadily. Without that recording, his file has gaps. Significant ones. So, the recording device was actually important, she said. Very. And Mira pulled it before he could access whatever was on it. Yes. Jade thought about that. So right now, his plan has a hole in it. A significant one, Seo Rin confirmed. But he's not finished. A man like Garrett doesn't stop, he adjusts. Jade looked at her hands on the table. I want to go see him, she said. Seo Rin was very still. That's not. I know what it is, she said. I know it's not strategy, and I know it probably makes things harder for you tactically. But I have been managed and handled and used for 11 months without my knowledge, and I am not going to let the last word in that relationship belong to him. She looked up. I need to do this myself. Seo Rin looked at her for a long moment. Okay, he said. She had expected an argument. The single word, no conditions, no lecture, no list of reasons why this was inadvisable, landed with more weight than a whole speech would have. Okay, she said. You are not someone who makes decisions carelessly, he said. If you've decided this is what you need to do, then it's what you need to do. He paused. I'll have Mira 2 buildings away. Not with you. Just close enough that if anything goes wrong. That's acceptable, she said. She stood up. He stood too, and for a moment they were both just standing in his kitchen. 2 people who had come to the edge of something neither of them had planned for.
Seo Rin, she said.
Yes. When this is over, she stopped. Started again. When all of this is settled, I want to have a conversation that has nothing to do with Garrett Shaw. Something happened in his expression. Very small. Very real. So do I, he said. Subscribe right now because the moment Jade walks through Garrett's door is going to change everything, and the plot twist waiting on the other side of it is not what anyone is expecting. She went the next morning. Garrett opened the door and looked at her with surprise he almost managed to hide, then smoothed it into the prepared version of himself. The careful, public face.
Jade. Warm.
Ready. I was going to call you. You planted a recording device in my apartment, she said. The warmth left his face like a light going off. I don't know what you...
Don't, she said.
Quietly. I'm not here to argue about whether happened. I'm here because I want you to hear this from me directly, without anyone else in the room. She held his gaze. I know what you were doing. I know why you started dating me. I know about the file and the plan and the contacts. She watched his face cycle through several things. I am not leverage. I am not a tool. I am not a piece of your strategy. His expression settled into something cold. You have no idea what that man is. I know exactly what he is, she said. I also know what you are. And the difference is that he was honest about it. Garrett took a step forward. Jade did not step back. If you come near my home, my workplace, or anyone I care about again, she said, every piece of documentation I have, and I have more than you think, goes directly to people who will know exactly what to do with it. She held his gaze for one more second. We're done. Completely. She turned and walked away. He called her name once. She did not stop. 2 buildings away, she could feel Myra's presence like a held breath. She sent a one-word text.
Done.
The reply came immediately.
Good.
What happened in the week after Jade walked away from Garrett Shaw's door was not dramatic. It was quiet and accumulative, and in many ways more significant than anything that had come before. She changed her locks. That was the first thing, practical, immediate, a physical statement of a new boundary. She told Serena everything, over a long phone call that went past midnight and ended with Serena saying, in the particular tone she reserved for things she was genuinely moved by, Jade, you have been carrying this alone for so long. I know, Jade said. You don't have to anymore, Serena said. I know that too, Jade said. I'm just practicing believing it. She called her sister Patrice on Sunday. Patrice was quiet through most of it, and at the end said, You sound different. Different how? Like yourself, Patrice said. Like the version of you that existed before you got very good at being careful. Jade held the phone and thought about that for a long time after the call ended. Seo Rin called on Tuesday evening. Not about Garrett. Not about any of the ongoing machinery of what was still being resolved on his end. He called and said, Are you busy? No, she said. I want to tell you something, he said. Not strategically. Not because it's relevant to anything current. Just because I want to tell you. She sat down on her couch. Okay. When I was 19, he said, I made a choice that I told myself I had no other option for. And for a long time, that was true. The option didn't exist yet. But somewhere along the way, other options began to exist and I kept not choosing them. Because the thing I had built had become the definition of who I was. A pause. You asked me once what I want the next part of my life to look like. I've been thinking about that question every day since you asked it. What have you decided? She asked. That I want to build things people can see, he said. That don't require defending. That don't require this specific kind of cost. Another pause. I've started. I met with someone last week about a property development project. Legitimate.
Public.
Something that would exist in the world as itself, not as a cover for something else. Jade was quiet for a moment. How did it feel? She asked. Strange, he said. And then right. That's how the right things usually feel at first, she said. Strange and then right. You say things like they're obvious, he said. They are obvious, she said. That's why they're hard. She heard something that was almost a breath of a laugh from his end, small, unexpected, the kind that happens when something surprises you into it. Come to dinner, he said. Not at a restaurant. I want to cook. You cook. My mother taught me, he said. I'm adequate. High praise from someone who measures everything, she said. Friday, he said. Friday, she agreed. She arrived on Friday to find his apartment filled with the particular smell of something that had been cooking for a while. Kimchi jjigae, she thought, and she was right, along with rice and a small spread of side dishes that had clearly taken more time than adequate suggested. He did not make a thing of it. He just led her into the kitchen and handed her a glass of water and told her to sit wherever she wanted while he finished the last few minutes of cooking. She sat at the kitchen table, the same one where he had told her the truth about Garrett, which felt like a long time ago and also like last week, and she watched him work. He moved through the kitchen the way he moved through everything, with attention, with economy, without wasted motion. You're not adequate, she said. The soup isn't done yet, he said. The side dishes are excellent. They're simple. Seo Rin. She waited until he looked at her. Let me compliment your food. A pause. Okay, he said. She almost smiled. They ate and talked for 3 hours, and the conversation covered the distance of everything they had not yet said to each other, the specific textures of their histories, the things they were proud of, the things they were not proud of and had decided to be honest about anyway. He told her about the person on his team who had betrayed him, not with anger, but with the particular sadness of someone processing how trust, once broken by someone you believed in, changes the shape of how you approach the next trust. She told him about who she had been in the years before Garrett, the sharper, louder, less careful version of herself that she had been slowly sanding down to fit a space that was never the right shape. I want her back, Jade said. That version. She's here, Seo Rin said. You never met her. I've seen her every time you've walked into a room where someone is trying to make you smaller, he said. She shows up whether you call her or not. Jade looked at her hands on the table. Then she looked up at him. I'm going to say something, she said.
Say it, he said.
I've spent the last 5 months trying to figure out whether what I feel when I'm around you is real or whether it's gratitude or relief or the specific emotional confusion of someone who has been through a lot and is looking for solid ground. She held his gaze. I've figured it out. And, he said, very quiet. It's real, she said. It's not gratitude, and it's not relief. It's its own thing. It has its own reasons. She took a breath. I wanted you to know that. Seo Rin was very still. Then, slowly, I've been trying to remember how to want something, he said. For a long time, wanting things felt like a liability. Something that could be used against me. So I stopped. He looked at her. You make me want to remember how. Then remember, she said. I'll wait. You shouldn't have to. Seo Rin. She said his name with the particular weight of someone who means it. I'm not waiting because I have to. I'm waiting because you're worth it. There's a difference. 3 days later, Garrett made his final move. He sent the file. Not to authorities. That threat had always been more complex than it appeared because the people he planned to give it to owed him favors. But favors operate on balance, and his balance had been shifting. He sent it to a journalist. A specific one, a woman named Theodora Miles who had built a career on exactly this kind of material. Seo Rin received the notification at 6 in the morning. He called Jade at 6:15. He sent the file to a journalist, he said. Jade was already awake. How bad? She asked. It's a version of things, he said. Not entirely false. Not entirely accurate. But enough to cause damage if it lands wrong. A pause. There are references to you. To the night at the venue. The way it's framed makes it look like I was part of it, she said. Yes. I wasn't. I know. What are you going to do? She asked. I've already been in contact with a legal team, he said. We have our own version of events, properly documented. We can respond. He paused. But there's something else. Tell me. Theodora Miles, he said. I know her work. She is very good at it, and she is very thorough. Before she publishes anything, she investigates. She doesn't want the wrong version of a story. She wants the actual one.
He paused.
I think you should talk to her. Jade was quiet. You want me to go to the journalist, she said. Not to give her my side, he said. To give her yours. Your story, what actually happened from beginning to end, without my involvement. You have your own evidence. Your own sequence of events. Garrett's complaint at your firm, the recording device, all of it. Another pause. Your story is clean, Jade. It doesn't need me in it. And if she hears it from you, directly, clearly, it changes the shape of what she thinks she's covering. Jade thought about it. You're asking me, she said, to do the thing I do professionally, understand what someone needs to hear, and find the most honest way to say it. Yes, he said simply. She almost smiled, even though nothing about the situation was funny. Set up the meeting, she said. Theodora Miles turned out to be exactly what her work suggested: precise, unhurried, and committed to accuracy, with the specific passion of someone who had been burned by inaccuracy before and had no interest in repeating the experience. She listened to Jade for 90 minutes, without interrupting except to clarify. She asked specific questions. She reviewed the documentation Jade brought, the footage from the venue, the withdrawn complaint from her workplace, the recording device evidence, with the focused attention of someone assembling something that needed to hold together. At the end, she said, "You understand that what I'm going to publish is going to be about all of it, including the parts that are complicated." "I know," Jade said. "The truth is complicated. That's fine. What I need is for my part in it to be accurate." Theodora looked at her. "Your part in it is clean." "I know," Jade said. "I needed someone else to confirm it." Theodora nodded. She was quiet for a moment. "Then, Garrett Shaw has been doing this for a long time. You are not the first person he has built a relationship with as a means to an end. You are, however, the first one who kept receipts." Jade thought about that all the way home. The article came out 11 days later. It was thorough. It was accurate. It covered Garrett Shaw's pattern of using personal relationships as intelligence-gathering operations, the complaint he had filed against Jade that had been withdrawn when evidence contradicted it entirely, the recording device found in her apartment, and the larger picture of his approach to the kind of leverage that lived in the gray areas between legal and illegal. Jade's name appeared twice. Both times accurately. Both times as a person who had been targeted, had identified what was happening, and had taken clear action in response. Garrett Shaw's name appeared 37 times. She read the article at her kitchen table with her second cup of tea of the morning, and when she finished, she set her phone down and looked out the window at the city and felt, not triumph, something quieter than triumph, the particular satisfaction of a thing that has been set right. Serena called 7 minutes later, hollering. Patrice called from home, crying in the good way. Howard Briggs sent a professional email expressing the firm's full support. And Seo Rin sent a single text. "You did that." She looked at those 3 words. "We did," she wrote back. "No," he replied. "That was yours. I just made sure you had what you needed." She read that message 3 times. And then she typed, "Can I come over?" "The door is open," he sent. She came over with food, not from a restaurant, but from her own kitchen, things she had cooked herself, packed into containers the way her mother used to pack things when she wanted someone to feel that they were being taken care of without making a production of it. Jollof rice and fried plantain, and a container of pepper soup that her grandmother's recipe had made legendary in every house she had ever brought it to. Seo Rin opened the containers one by one and looked at them the way someone looks at something they did not know they had been missing. "You cooked," he said. "My mother taught me," she said. He looked up. She raised an eyebrow. That almost smile came back, and this time it went a little further than almost. They ate at the kitchen table, and the conversation was easy in the way conversations become easy when everything difficult has already been said, and all that is left is the actual people. He told her about progress on the development project, a community property in Anson, the city he had come from, which had felt like a circle closing in the best possible way. She told him about a new account she was leading at work, a campaign she was genuinely excited about for the first time in longer than she could remember. They talked about small things and large things with equal ease, and the city outside moved through its evening, and neither of them was keeping track of time. At some point late, the kind of late that has already decided to become early morning, Jade said, "Can I ask you something?" "Always," he said. "That night at the venue," she said. "When you said those words, 'She's mine now,' did you mean it?" "In the moment." He was quiet for a moment. "I meant to stop what was happening," he said carefully. "I meant to create a line between you and him that he would understand. That was the professional calculation." He paused. "But when you picked up your bag and started walking toward me," he stopped. "When I started walking toward you," she prompted. "I stopped calculating," he said. "For the first time in longer than I can account for, I stopped being 10 steps ahead, and I was just in that moment, watching you walk toward me." He looked at her. "And I thought, whatever happens next, I want to be the kind of person worthy of that." Jade looked at him. This careful, serious, complex man who had come from nothing and built something at a cost he was now finally, deliberately beginning to reckon with, who had seen her across a room and chosen to step in front of something dangerous, who had, in the months since, shown up with food and without agenda, with honesty and without performance, with the particular rare quality of a person who listens to understand rather than to respond.
"You already are," she said.
He held her gaze. And somewhere in the space between what they had been and what they were becoming, something final settled into place. Not with drama, not with noise. Just with the quiet permanence of something that had found its home.
"Stay," he said.
"I'm not going anywhere," she said. Garrett Shaw exited the city 14 days after the article published, quietly, with no announcement, the way things leave when they have run out of room to be what they were. The file he had spent 2 years building had been reviewed by the relevant authorities, and what it revealed about his methods reflected far more poorly on its creator than on its subjects. The leverage he had believed was power turned out to be the exact evidence of his own pattern. He had not considered that possibility. He had underestimated the woman at the center of it. Most people did, until they didn't. 6 months later, on an ordinary Thursday evening, Jade was sitting on the windowsill of Seo Rin's apartment with her laptop and a cup of tea, working on a presentation due the next morning, when he came and sat beside her and looked out at the city and said nothing for a few minutes. She did not ask what he was thinking. She had learned that his silences were not absences. They were processes. Things completing themselves. Eventually, he said, "My mother is coming to visit next month." Jade looked up. "Yes. I'd like you to meet her," he said. She looked at him. "She speaks very little English," he added, "and you speak no Korean." "I've been learning," Jade said. He looked at her. "You've been learning Korean?"
"For 3 months," she said.
"I'm terrible at it, but I'm improving." He stared at her. "I wasn't going to say anything until I was better," she said. "But since you brought it up." 3 months, he said. Seo Rin. "You've been learning Korean for 3 months, he said, and you didn't." "I wanted it to be a surprise," she said. He looked at her for a long, full moment. And then, fully, completely, without reservation, he smiled. Not the almost smile. Not the small, unpracticed version. The real one. The one that changed the whole shape of his face and made him look, briefly, like the 19-year-old he had been before everything became so serious. Jade had not seen it before. She filed it away carefully, the way you file away something you intend to see again many times. "Say something," she said. "In Korean. I'll see how much I understand." He said something, quietly, that she did not entirely catch. Her comprehension was still finding its legs, but she caught the shape of it and the tone of it, and both were unmistakable.
"I got most of that," she said.
"Good," he said. The month his mother came was October. The city had started doing what it always did in October, pulling its colors inward, trading the loose warmth of late summer for something more considered, more layered. The trees along the river path went gold and amber and a deep red that Jade had no word for except right, like the color of something that had been waiting all year to be exactly itself. She was nervous in the way that makes you busier than you need to be. She reorganized her bag 3 times on the morning of the day they were going to the airport. She changed her outfit twice, not because she was unsure of herself, but because she wanted to be, in some way she couldn't fully articulate, a good representation of something. Of the care she had for the person who mattered to her. Of the seriousness of the thing she was walking into. Seo Rin watched her from the kitchen doorway. "You look perfect," he said. "You haven't seen the first outfit," she said. "You look perfect," he repeated. She turned and looked at him. He was leaning in the doorway with his arms crossed and the calm of a man who had already decided how he felt about the day ahead, and there was something in his expression, warm and steady and entirely certain, that settled her the way only he could settle her, which was without trying. "What if she doesn't?"
"She will," he said.
"You don't know that." "I know my mother," he said. "She has been asking about you, since the second time I mentioned you. She mispronounces your name in a way that is very determined. She has been practicing." Jade stopped. "She's been practicing my name? Since August." Jade turned back to the mirror and did not say anything for a moment, because the thing happening in her face was not something she had prepared for, and she was not sure she wanted him to see the full extent of it. Jade, he said. I'm fine, she said. I know, he said. You're also allowed to be moved by things. You don't have to manage that. She turned around. When did you get wise? She said. I had a good teacher, he said. His mother's name was Seo Rin, and she was small and precise, and had the same eyes as her son, dark and complete, the kind that registered everything, except that hers were surrounded by the evidence of a life spent expressing what those eyes saw rather than containing it. There were lines at the corners that came from laughing. There were lines between her brows that came from worrying. She wore both with the complete ease of a woman who had earned her face. She came through the arrivals gate with one bag, moving with the practical efficiency of someone who traveled light by principle, and when she saw her son, she stopped for one full second, just stopped, and looked at him, in the way that mothers look at their children when they have been away long enough to need the reminder that they are real and present and safe. Then she crossed the distance and held him, and he held her back, and Jade stood a respectful step away and watched and felt something tender happen in the center of her chest that had nothing to do with her personally and everything to do with what love looks like when it is uncomplicated. Then Mayan pulled back, looked at him once more, a full inventory, top to bottom, and turned to Jade. She said something in Korean. Jade caught about 60% of it, which was 60% more than she could have managed 4 months ago. The gist of it was, "So, you are the one." Jade answered in Korean. Her pronunciation was not elegant. Her grammar was functional at best. But she looked Mayan directly in the eyes and said, in the language this woman had spent her whole life speaking, "It is very good to meet you. Seo Rin speaks of you, with great respect." Mayan's expression went very still. Then she looked at her son. Then she looked back at Jade. Then she said something that Jade did not catch at all, too fast, too layered, and looked at Seo Rin for translation. He was quiet for a moment. He said, that she knew from the way I talked about you, that you were someone worth knowing. But she says now she can see that she was underestimating the situation. Underestimating, Jade repeated. She means it as a compliment, he said. The highest one she gives. Mayan reached out and took Jade's hand, both hands, covering them the way you cover something you want to keep warm, and said something short and deliberate, looking directly at her. She says, Seo Rin said quietly, "Welcome to our family." Jade held Mayan's hands and held her gaze and did not look away, even though the thing happening behind her eyes was significant. "Thank you," Jade said, in Korean. The week that followed was the kind of week that becomes a permanent part of the story you tell about yourself. Mayan cooked every morning. The apartment became a different place, full of smells and sounds and the particular warmth of a home that has a matriarch in it. She taught Jade 3 recipes, with the focused seriousness of someone passing on something that matters. Jade took notes in a small book and practiced the pronunciations of every ingredient, and Mayan corrected her each time with the gentle persistence of a woman who had once taught her son the same way. On the 3rd day, while Seo Rin was on a call in the other room, Mayan sat across from Jade at the kitchen table with 2 cups of tea and looked at her with the complete attention that, Jade now understood, was simply how the Seo family saw. She said something slow enough that Jade could follow it.
He was very alone for a long time.
He did not let anyone see it, but a mother sees. Jade nodded.
He is not alone now, Mayan said.
I can see it in how he stands.
Jade thought about that.
About the way standing changes when you stop holding the full weight by yourself. About the particular posture of someone who has been given, finally, permission to set something down. I know, Jade said in Korean. I see it too. Mayan reached across the table and patted her hand once. Brief, certain, complete. That was the whole conversation. It did not need to be longer. On the last evening of Mayan's visit, they went to the river, all 3 of them, and walked the path that Jade and Seo Rin had walked on their first real day together, the gray day in early winter that felt like a lifetime ago, and also like last week. October had turned the whole path golden. The light came through the trees at the low angle of late afternoon and made everything look deliberate, like the season had arranged itself specifically for this evening. Mayan walked ahead of them at one point, looking at the water with the quiet attention of someone who is absorbing something to take home with her. Jade and Seo Rin walked side by side. She loves you, he said quietly. She loves me for your sake, Jade said.
No, he said.
She loves you for yours. My mother doesn't do things for the sake of other people's feelings. She either means something or she doesn't.
He paused.
She means it. Jade watched Mayan stop at the railing where they had stood on that first walk and look out at the water. She feels like home, Jade said quietly, not meaning to say it out loud. Just, it was true, and truth had a way of coming out of her before she could make a decision about it. Seo Rin was quiet for a moment. Then, just as quietly, "So, do you?" She looked at him. He was looking at the water, at his mother's small figure at the railing ahead of them, and his expression was the open one. The one without armor. The one she had first seen at his kitchen table on a 7 in the morning with nothing but the truth, and had been trying to protect ever since, the way you protect something that cannot easily be made again once it's gone.
Seo Rin, she said.
I love you. He turned and looked at her. The words had come out before any decision about them. Direct, clean, unperformed. The way she said things she meant. He looked at her for a long moment. I know, he said. I've known for a while. I've been trying to figure out how to say the same thing without making it sound like I prepared it. You don't need to prepare it, she said. I know that now, he said. He turned to face her fully. I love you. I have been learning how to be someone who says that. You've been patient while I learned. You weren't slow, she said. You were careful. Those are different. You always know the difference, he said. I've been paying attention, she said. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair back from her face, a small, quiet gesture, the kind that belongs to people who have passed the part where they are performing for each other and arrived at the part where they are simply present. Ahead of them, Mayan turned from the railing and saw them and said something that made Seo Rin close his eyes briefly. What did she say? Jade asked. She said, finally, he said. Jade laughed. It came out full and real and without any self-consciousness, and the sound of it moved out over the river and into the golden October air, and Mayan smiled the smile of a woman who had been waiting a long time to hear her son standing next to someone who laughed like that. Mira found out before anyone officially told her, because Mira always found out before anyone officially told her. She sent Jade a voice note that was 38 seconds long and consisted almost entirely of satisfied commentary and one very pointed. I told you. I told him. Nobody listens until they do. Jade saved the voice note. Serena screamed appropriately. Patrice called from home and cried again, in the good way, for the second time in 6 months, which was a record. The development project in Anson broke ground in November. Seo Rin stood at the site on the morning of the groundbreaking with the particular stillness of a man who is processing something too large for a single expression. Jade stood beside him. It was cold and the ground was hard and the sky was a flat, bright gray, and none of that mattered at all. How does it feel? She asked. He was quiet for a moment. Like the beginning of something I can be proud of, he said. Something that will still be standing after everything else is settled. It will be, she said. You don't know that, he said, but gently. I know you, she said. Same thing. He looked at her. And then he did something she had not expected. He took her hand. Right there, in the cold, on the morning of something new, in the city he had come from, on the ground of something he was building in the light. He took her hand and held it, and she held his back. Simple. Solid. Real. The kind of thing that does not need a single word to mean everything. Later, weeks later, in the specific quiet of a Sunday morning with the light coming through the apartment windows at the angle that meant late morning was about to become afternoon, Jade was at the kitchen table and Seo Rin was across from her, and they were both reading, which had become the best part of Sundays, and she looked up for no particular reason and found him already looking at her. What? She said. Nothing, he said. Just this. She understood what he meant. This. The ordinary weight of a Sunday. The ordinary peace of two people in the same room without needing it to be anything other than what it was. The accumulated evidence of a life being built carefully and honestly from the exact materials of who they actually were, not who they had needed to be, not who someone else had decided they should be, but the real versions. The ones that had survived everything that had tried to make them smaller. Yeah, she said. This. She went back to her book. He went back to his. The city outside was being its ordinary self. And inside, everything was exactly, completely, quietly right. Two people found each other not by chance, but by the particular gravity of two people who had both decided, separately, that they were done disappearing. The road between where they started and where they ended was not easy, but easy was never the point. The point was real. The point was chosen. The point was worth it. This story belongs to everyone who has ever been brave enough to pick up their bag and walk towards something uncertain, and to everyone who has been waiting on the other side of that walk, not to rescue someone, but to meet them. Thank you for watching until the very end. This is exactly the kind of story that deserves to be shared, and your presence here, all the way through the last word, is what makes telling it worthwhile.